My name is Ana. I'm a journalist. I work for the largest circulation newspaper in Brazil, called Folha. And I'm also a member of this investigative journalism association. This story starts in Rio, which is one of the most beautiful cities in the world. I mean, it's in southern Brazil. And as many cities, or also almost big cities in a poor country, in a developing country, it has large areas of very poor neighborhoods. And this one is called Alemão, Complexo do Alemão, that translates to German complex. I don't know why, maybe some German started some settlement there, but then it got out of control. It's huge, one of the largest areas of poor people concentration with no institutions, no state, no presence of state. It's a territory for drug dealers. And in those areas, drug dealers usually promote big parties called funk parties from the funk music. It's not really the same funk music from that you have here in America, but it's based on American funk. And so back in 2002, there was this TV producer. It's a very experienced journalist. He was investigating children prostitution and children drug involvement in one of those parties, and he got caught. You know, he was very experienced. He had been investigating those kinds of crimes for many years, more than 10 years. He, as a smart person, he has never shown his face on television. He was just the producer, meaning he did all the investigation, but the one who would present the story would be a reporter, so nobody would be able to identify him by his face. But even though he got caught, and then he got tortured, and he got slaughtered by a mean that is called, in those areas, it's called microwave. What they do is that they put a person inside tires, car tires, and then they set fire on him, and they let him burn. So this was a very violent crime. Got, you know, a large it was
widely made available,
widely broadcasted,
yeah.
And then we started to think, we journalists in Brazil started to think that even if we were experienced, even if we had backup from our companies, we were not well prepared to cover those kind of issues that involve risk. We were not well prepared to cover crime and to do our jobs in conflict areas as those areas in Rio are. So we decided to get together and start a journalism association that's called ABRAGE, and stands for Brazilian Association for Investigative Journalism. Well, Brazil, as you know, certainly know, is a country in South America, is the largest country there, and if you take Alaska off, Brazil is larger than the United States in area, and it has 193 million people living there. So we try to have an association that has good people from all over the country. So we invited experienced journalists from each region of the country. Also, we try to have different companies, competitive companies, so there wouldn't be only one represented, and also from different media platforms. So we have people from television, from radio, from newspapers, magazines, and all that. It's a non-profit, non-partisan, non-political association, and its main goal is to share and empower best practice for investigative journalism, and that means networking, getting people together, training on tools, especially on tools, on sources of information, and trying to do some public action to foster freedom of press and freedom of I should, if I was presenting this rightly, this graphic should appear after the. Yeah. So it's not showing here that I want to do it. But what I was, this is a network of investigative journalism associations, and Abrashi has founded it and is part of it. So I was only, with this image, I only wanted to show you where the associations are all over the world. And what else we do? We have an annual congress, an international congress. We bring up to 100 panelists. Yeah, I don't know why. What he has written it. I have no idea what it is. Well, never mind.
Are you trying to rearrange the slide?
No, it's just that I can't see the presentation here.
No, he put it someplace like that. Yeah, he said he was dragging it over.
That's okay. Never mind, never mind. I can describe it. Sorry. That's okay. Also, if you're interested in details about the association and what we do, I have this folder in English, so feel free to pick one up, and you'll have more details on how and what we do and how we work. But
Anna,
we have.
can I interrupt?
Sure.
This group of associations spread all over the world. What is it? I mean, you made contact with other
We have
associations?
founded the network so we can share experience and share resources.
And what is the name of the network?
It's something like International Network of Investigative Journalism Associations. But we are funded by some international organizations such as the McCormick Foundation, Knight Center for Americas, and some other institutions that work with us, but we have an annual membership fee. We have now around 400 members among journalists and students, and they pay an annual fee. Also, we are funded by our annual congress and specific projects that we do together to universities or other associations, and also we provide training for private universities. We also provide training for public universities, but we don't charge them. We only charge when they are private. And also we provide training for media companies. So that's the way we get funded. As I said. So we do a lot of training on computer-assisted journalism and on organized crime investigation, how to avoid risks, how to get prepared, how to plan the investigation in advance, so you know what to do if you get caught. It's not that you know what to do if you get caught, because there is almost nothing you can do, but you have to you have to have a whole network prepared so they can know you got caught. So you have to keep phoning them from time to time. You have to know your routes to escape and all that. We publish books on good stories, good investigative stories. We have a lot of interactive and online resources on our website. Some of them are only for members and others are open. And we have been campaigning and advocating for free access to public information. As I'm going to show here, this was our main topic regarding transparency. This is a TransparencyCamp. The situation in Brazil now is not very good. It's one of the few countries in Latin America that does not have a free access of public information here. So you can classify a document forever. Government can classify a document forever, and you would never know which is this document and what does it contain. A lot of states now, after a lot of pressure, they have set up websites, transparency websites, but it's almost nothing useful you can find there. And when it is, it's very difficult to access. And government doesn't have deadlines to give you answers, even to tell you they won't give you the information you're asking for, and they are not accountable for everything. So what you do regarding to transparency, first we started monitoring what governments were doing. We did this poll among the main 91 Senate candidates. We had federal elections last year, and only 30% of them declared committed with freedom of information. There is this bill that's been voted in Congress that tries to start some kind of legal mark for having access to public information. We also started this access map. What it did is to actively request public information to map transparency in different levels of the country and asking for different kinds of information. So we started that in 2007. At the state level, we have 27 states in Brazil, and we asked for information at executive, legislative, and judiciary level. And the results were very bad. Only 5% gave us the information they had access for. Other 40% gave partial information, and they mostly didn't respond. So in 2008, we moved to the city level, and we sent questions. We first sent questions, then we actively phoned them or emailed them asking for answers, all in all capitals, all state capitals in Brazil. And again, only 5% have answered our questions. And now the percentage of partial answers were even lower. So in the municipal level and the city level, they are not transparent and accountable at all. Oops. In 2009, we moved to the federal level, and then the judiciary answered all our questions. The executive partially answered, and Congress, we have 2 houses in Congress, and none of them even bothered to say no. They just haven't answered. And last year, we got back again to the state level, and now 40% of them, we consider that partial answers, because they said, oh, you can find this information in our website. So that indicates that they are giving some information online, but also they are very difficult to find, and they do no effort to help in finding the information you need. So that leads to very awkward situations. You know, last year a reporter was willing to make a story on the Paraguay War, which was one of the largest and bloodiest wars in South America. It happened a century ago, more than a century ago, a century and 50 years ago. And he just wanted to know more about the borders during the war. And documents about this are classified by the government. So he had to file a request that had to be analyzed by a classified documents commission in Brazil. That's part of the presidency department. And he filed it was in 2008. He filed the request in December. It got 70 days for the commission to say they had not the information we needed, so we should ask the Foreign Affairs Department. And then in March, the Foreign Affairs Department said, okay, we may have this information, but we are undergoing pest control in the library, so we can't look for it. Another thing we do is training. We do a lot of seminars. We have done 2 national seminars about transparency, and also we do courses on how to find information. And it's leading to some results. Last year, this report from a regional newspaper in South Brazil won the most important journalism prize in Brazil, and after having been trained by us, they collected data from the legislative official journal from 98 to 2009, and they were able to reveal that they had, how can I say this? They had robbed public money, and that amounted up to $65 million during this period. And also, after they have heard the story, they got the transparency bill approved by the legislative at the state level, and they put online a searchable database with all the information they collected by themselves, so anyone, any citizen could search for wherever they needed. Another thing we do is advocating. We created this National Forum for Transparency, gathering 35 organizations. And in 2006 presidential election, we sent letters to all the main candidates asking commitment with a free access bill. And Lula, who was the president at that time, signed before being re-elected. So at the end of his mandate, his last mandate in 2010, he actually sent a bill to the Congress. We also helped writing the bill and correcting some things in the bill. So this first bill may pass in next week. It was scheduled to be voted on May 3rd. That you probably know is the international United Nations International Day for Freedom of Press. But then some bureaucratic issues in the Congress postponed it. So now it's going to pass in the next weeks. And what it regulates is right to know where to file a claim for information, because sometimes they don't even tell you where you have to ask for the things you need. Right to access archive data, because a very common answer would be, oh, this has been already archived, we cannot get it back from the archives. Right to check what the public people are obliged to tell what they're doing. They have to give access to their spendings. They have to tell what internal investigations are, which internal investigations they are doing, and what are their results. You cannot endless classify documents anymore. There are limits. You can classify documents for up to 30 years, but not more than that. And now you have the right to know how many documents they have classified and what are the deadlines for each one. Also, it's mandatory to have internet access to public data for cities over 10,000 people there. And they will have 20 days to answer requests. So what I had to tell you about transparency and what small NGOs can do. I think that media is a very good partner. It's sometimes not the media themselves, not the media companies themselves, but journalists usually are very good partners for people who are dealing with transparency and organized crime issues, because it's their raw material for what they do, for what they produce. So we have. What we have been doing. So if you have any questions or any inputs or any stories to share, I'll be happy to take part of the conversation.
I'm curious, the situation with the Paraguay documents, do you think that was just incompetency, or was that obstructionism, or?
I think it's a mix of everything. Sometimes they don't really have the information because they are so not organized. Yeah, okay. Yeah. And sometimes they don't want to give that information, either because it's bad information for them, either because they want to maintain the power, that.
It seems like in that instance it's good for culture and history to use these documents.
Yeah.
What shaped the country or why like that.
Yeah, at the Paraguay War was only maybe incompetent. They were incompetent.
It's too bad.
Yeah, it is.
Mm-hmm.
But now it's going to win, because now they can be charged if they don't give access to documents.
So they have to be organized.
Now they will, after this bill passes.
great. Congratulations.
I think there's a cultural thing too, and in government in Brazil, I don't know if this is the case, but I think that usually, people in power in Brazil, they don't really feel like it's their obligation to respond to people
Yeah, they don't feel it at all.
It's like,
Yeah.
we were elected to do the job. Oh, leave me alone.
I think that persists in every country. People don't feel obligated to help one another. That they're mandated by law to.
Yeah.
Thank God.
Yes.
And also, we have in every public department, we have people called press assistants, but they don't assist us at all.
They fight you.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah,
Their job is to hide information from us. It's
Yeah,
very
their job
difficult
is
to
not
get
to take
information.
requests to their bosses, so
Yeah.
they have to stop the flow of information at their level so that.
So one of the things we have been doing at the association is to tell journalists how they can gather their own database or how they can find data without asking those press assistants, because if they do, they would never get it.
And did you model yourselves after IRE and NICAR?
Yes,
Yeah, you did.
yes,
Okay.
they were there. They were our first inspiration.
Oh, that's great.
They have never actually worked with us.
But you guys looked to them.
Yeah.
Okay.
Also, we got a very big help from the Knight Center for Americans, because its chairman is a Brazilian journalist.
Oh, really?
He lives in Austin. He teaches at the University of Texas.
Oh, that's right. Because the conference was in South America last year,
Yeah.
and Texas, I think.
Yes. Yeah. Well,
Rosenthal office, right?
Rosenthal. Yeah.
He organized the Latin American conference on
Yeah.
digital journalism.
Yeah, I wanted
Yeah,
to go.
that's
I
it.
couldn't get my employer to pay for it.
Do you have like technology people? Are you
No, we
association?
don't. This is one of the things I think we should move towards, is to get more techy. We only have journalists now, and we are very tiny NGO. We have only 2 staffers. All the board members are voluntary. We are working journalists that try to help the association keep walking, but we work 10, 12 hours a day in our previous employers. And we only have 2 staffers, and they are journalists, and mainly they do bureaucratic things, and they call funders and all that. And I think we need techies, to
People
develop
with
tools
other
and all
skills,
that.
right? To be able to
Yeah.
journalism.
Please.
Thanks. So, do you think that the press assistants, not to be all conspiracy theory, but do you think that they're sort of like put there to gather what information you as journalists want to get, and then just
hide them
Right.
as deeply as they can? Yeah, that's what they do. Yeah, that's it.
they're doing what they're supposed to be doing? I mean,
They're not, and they're paid by this. That's what's enraging. Because if you're a press assistant for a company, okay, you have to defend their interests. But if you're a public officer, you should help press. It's
So
sad.
there's a number of reasons why they hide information. So sometimes, they hide. Sometimes they don't have. Sometimes they have it, but it's unorganized. Sometimes they think information is public, but for some reason they don't want to give it to you at that moment. I have a specific example for that. At my NGO, we have been asking for a list of beneficiaries of a specific grant that the Brazilian government makes to fishermen. Because there's a specific time of the year that fishermen cannot fish because fish are breeding and so you cannot fish. So during those 3 or 4 months of the year, government grants some money to these fishermen. They have to be enrolled in an association, and the association sends their name to government, and they get minimum wage for that. We know that there are several people receiving that money illegally. Just for you to have an idea, Brazil spends about 1 billion reais, which would be like $7 million, $700 million per year in this type of grant to fishermen. This is 4 times more than we export in fish. So, yeah. So there is something wrong, of course. And what is wrong is the relationship of fishermen with the association. They have to pay to be associates, and they pay, and then the association sends their name to government. It's not something that government does. It's made through an association. So
it's a club.
Yeah. So what we have been asking is, please give us the list of beneficiaries, because then we can cross this list with several other databases that we have. Because these people, they can only be fishermen. If they have other jobs, they do not have right to the grant. So I don't think they think the list is confidential. I think eventually the list will come out public. But the problem is that they are trying to fix the list. They are trying to see who is receiving it illegally so that people stop receiving it illegally, and when they give the list is okay. We're not going to find any mistakes. So there are several reasons why we cannot get information. And I know it may sound weird to people who are in countries where you have had freedom of information acts for a long time, and you have a culture of asking for information and fighting for your right to get it. But I think that in Brazil we come from a society that, because of several explanations I think, but we are kind of, I don't know, I mean, we have a culture of respect to authority, I think. If someone says you don't have that right, then you don't. And it's a culture that respects that, and it's not individualistic, and we don't have that sense of group that other people have to go fight for their rights. So if someone says no, then no, fine. You know. So this is something, a reality that we face in Brazil. I think for historical reasons, I don't know. Sometimes I get the sense that people in countries where you have, I don't know, civil wars or disasters in terms of nature, people group together. In Brazil, historically, we haven't had those. So, I mean, we're not used to grouping
We have
together.
ever had kind of loose boundaries between what's public and what's private, with the elite getting all the public things for themselves. So, this is kind of historical and cultural.
From the beginning, right?
Yeah, from the very beginning, it was a colony, a very exploiting colonies.
Yeah,
They have never built any sense of citizenship. Were you going to ask something?
I was just asking with yours, is like, so do you know the average person would receive in the funds for those 3 months? And then if you know the total amount, and then you know the average person, then you would know how many people should be on that list, and then you could cross-reference it. Does everyone get the same amount, or is it a sliding
No,
scale?
everyone gets the same amount, but the problem is that we might know how many people receive, but then you have to know the names so that you see, is this person working in another body in government somewhere else? We have to know the names to cross information.
That part, that makes sense, but at least you would know, like, you knew the total membership possible, and then if you reference by the total number of fishermen, you would say, oh, there's more money being outlaid than just by the number that there would be, so you know that there's at least a number of, like, over. Then you can say, well, who are these in particular? Then you can fight on a particular issue opposed to, like, the whole list.
Yeah. But yeah, I guess it's a Brazilian problem. I mean, not Brazilian, some other countries. Just because there are not lots of other countries here, but we are watching the presentations of the last presentation we watched yesterday. Yeah, and she seems to have the same problem, same types of problems.
U.S. is the same thing with welfare recipients and requirements of certain things. You know, how do you distinguish between those who deserve to receive it and those who don't? Because they hide. There's actually an issue in California recently where they distributed cards, like a debit card, and they documented where they were using it, and they found a large number were using it, not a large number, but a percentage were using it in casinos and other things. So then they
I remember this story very well. It was entertaining.
Yeah, so then you like prevent, then you can block like certain things, but that's like if you didn't have the data they're collecting it, and someone needs to like say like specifically that type of issue, whether that's fair to dictate how they use it or not, it's like a separate issue.
with regards to this debit card, we would have been able to have checked that on the internet in Brazil, because this is something that we have access to. Government officials will have, what we say corporate cards. Yeah. What they spend is on the internet daily.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, yesterday when I was explaining what we do at Campus Abertas, I didn't bring my computer today, but we could even do it here online. You enter a website and then a governmental website. In terms of active transparency, Brazil is pretty good. I mean, you have, in terms of the budget, I'm saying, you have a lot of budgetary information on the internet.
It's not public.
And,
It's not public. It's not for the public.
It is. Mm-hmm.
It's open.
At
No
Portal
one
da
goes there.
Transparência.
Portal.
Yeah, you can find it. Huh?
Well, he just said, but no one goes there.
Well, it is public, but it's
People are not interested.
Yeah.
I mean, people are, they're not interested. They do not have time. So usually, people who research this are journalists. Well, I remember a big scandal that we had in Brazil when a trainee at Folha, actually, the tapioca case.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
He started researching this expenses made with the corporate card. The corporate card is actually something that we advocated to be included in this transparency portal, because of course they have a system with a lot of information, but they select what to make available to the public. A lot is made available, but the expenses with the corporate cards weren't. So we at NGO and several other people, we actually asked them to put this corporate cards expenses on the net. And then one trainee at the newspaper that she works for was there. I mean, trainees are usually young people. They're not even, yeah. And then he started just looking, oh, okay, let me see if I find something weird in here. And then he found that this Minister of Sports back then had spent $5 actually, yeah, in a store that sells tapioca. Tapioca is a very typical food in Brazil. But I mean, obviously he was buying a snack for him. And because of the name of the shop where he was, because you know the name of the establishment and the value. So we knew that he was buying snacks that he wasn't supposed to be doing. So, and this is information that you have daily updated. Our problem in Brazil is passive transparency. When you have to ask for information that is not already there. And then because we don't have the law, because we don't have the culture, then
That expense is interesting. California has a similar issue with, it's a perk for legislators to have a card. And so they're documenting the amount of gas that it costs to go into it, and then kind of calculating based on the average miles of your vehicle. Like, you can't possibly be doing all of this on official business, because then you would just be, you know,
traveling around the globe.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that's I don't know, it's fascinating that it's disclosed. It's odd, an odd thing to have. They could.
But this is of people not going there to look for information. I think this is a concern of a lot of organizations involved with transparency and access to public information. How to get people involved, how to get them to realize that matters to them, you know.
We have, so at Sunlight, we do data all the time.
Yeah.
And the people in charge push for visualizations, really cool, flashy, interactive visualizations. And you get upset. You say, I want to write a big story, I want to do an analysis. And I say, visualize it. Because if you can visualize it in a useful way, people might pay attention.
Yeah, that's.
Again, it seems so simple and so, it seems like you're demeaning your work, but if you can make it pretty, people might look at it. So to go back to your issue of not having tech people, that's where they come in. You know, if you have someone who can really visualize your stuff nicely, you get a ton of attention. I deal with government finance and subsidy programs and stuff like that. And go ahead. No, back in December, I had to deal with this very complicated bailout program, and I'm proud of myself because I understand the program and I understand how it works, and I know the rate and I know the percentage of repayment. I know everything, but it doesn't matter. I had to get the technical people to make a very pretty graphic, and then it got picked up all over the web. And I think in the end I didn't mind because people were paying attention.
And how do you deal with the fact that Flash won't be tracked by Google? People who are looking.
Well, there's HTML5, I guess, but that's not quite as popular yet. You know, I guess when I say flashy, it doesn't always have to be real flash.
Any kind of feature or any
Yeah, anything
interactive
that's
and
interactive.
friendly thing.
Yeah, I guess flash is a barrier, but it's better than nothing.
Yeah, it's true.
You know, because if a major newspaper, if the New York Times picks up my graphic because it looks great, then you know, lots of people read the New York Times.
Yeah,
So if it's
you're
flash
right.
or not, people are going to see it.
Yeah.
So you know, having the technical expertise really helps.
Yes, yes, it
Yeah.
helps.
And another thing, that's a super good point about how you need to make it attractive to people and accessible and understandable. Another way to maybe start to change the culture, and I missed the very beginning, so you may have already told the story about the murder.
Yes, yes, I
Okay.
did.
I mean,
I can
that,
tell you later if you want.
yeah, I mean, that to me is, you know, as I'm a journalist, and so, you know, taking those kinds of stories and showing people how, you know, this could happen to any of you, and how, you know, telling the story in the way of saying, look, you know, this is how transparency can, you know, help this from happening to you, or if it does happen to you, you know, you're going to want to know this information, and this is why it's important. Sometimes it's just as simple and elemental to just do that, to just show people why they should care. And if it takes a horrible example like a murder or something like that, you know, people can start to understand why this information should be public, and why they need to know this.
So thank you for